Okay, hi everyone. Thanks again for joining us. My name is Lindsay Diven with Marketers Take Flight and Full Sail Partners, and I have a very special guest with us today. I have Sarah Gonnella, a longtime friend and colleague that I met through the SMPS network, who is now my boss. She is my boss at Full Sail Partners, and we are a Deltec partner, and I work on the CRM side as a CRM consultant, as some of you might know. But I thought I wanted to bring on Sarah today to talk about virtual onboarding of new staff, including marketing staff, because when I started at Full Sail Partners, they're a 100% virtual company, and I started my first day, and I came right here and sat down, and Sarah onboarded me, and it was a great experience. I had never experienced anything like it, and it was very unique not to go into an office the first day of a new job. And she had it so organized and planned out, and I just felt instantly like part of the team in the firm. So I wanted to bring her on because now we're all thrust in this virtual environment. And so I thought she would be a valuable resource for all of you out there that are still hiring and maybe already put offer letters out to folks. And now they are starting to work at your firm maybe next week or the next month. And so you're scrambling around to try to reorganize your onboarding process. So I thought Sarah would be a very valuable resource to kind of talk about the Full Sail Partners process and how it works and how she prepares for that. So before we get to the Q&A part of it, I wanted to take a few minutes for Sarah to introduce herself and talk a little bit about her career in the AEC marketing world and how she got to Full Sail Partners, what is Full Sail Partners, and what she's doing today. So thanks again, Sarah, for joining us, and I can't wait to hear your story.
Great. Thank you, Lindsay, for having me today. It is a little bit different. I'm used to being in my pajamas, so my husband thanks you for getting me all dressed up today.
Yes, I got dressed up today too. Usually we are not working like this, just FYI for everyone listening.
And so, well, just to give everybody a little bit of overview of what it is that I do at Full Sail Partners, I oversee marketing and sales at the company. I'm actually one of the 4 partners at the firm, so I have grown to be one of owners at a company, starting early on being a marketing coordinator. And so the history of the company actually dates back more than 2 decades. All of those years being virtual. And when I started almost 12 years ago, working virtual was actually pretty rare. Full Sail Partners helps project-based firms and represents Deltec products, many of those being in the AE industry, architects and engineers, as most of your viewers will know. And about 80 to 90% of our clients fall into that category. Our solution also helps management consulting, IT consulting, and other professional services firms. And we're about to branch into new solutions that actually help the construction and subcontractors as well. Our firm has a specialty of helping firms connect third-party solutions like Constant Contact, MailChimp, Client Feedback Tool, Informer Concur, and other Deltec or other products into the Deltec Vision and Deltec Vantage world through our solution called Black Box Connector. And in the next couple of months, we're actually going to be releasing a new connector for HubSpot. So I'm excited about that.
Me too.
But in my role, I really oversee marketing and sales strategy, which includes the lead generation process, new product exploration, and I'm also very involved in almost daily conversations with clients to better understand how we can assist them. So that's really sort of my day-to-day and what I do.
Great. And how did you get into Full Sail Partners, or how did you get into the industry?
Well, so first, I actually was really sort of good at databases whenever I first got out of college, and I actually helped an organization with ACT and Access, and I ended up falling into marketing through databases, and sort of full circle now I'm back into databases with marketing. So it's always been something that I've always had both of those throughout my career. I got started in the AEC industry actually through Hardin Construction, which is now DPR.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked for construction, architects, engineers, surveying firms. But how I got into what I'm doing now is I actually was working for as a marketing consultant on my own, sort of out of necessity. I was unemployed, and so I ended up getting into marketing consulting, and from that experience of databases and organizing information, I had a company here in Atlanta, Prime Engineering, that hired me as a marketing consultant to organize their data. They ended up hiring me full-time as their marketing manager, and I worked with the IT and the finance person and outlined all the redundancy that was being entered to justify the purchase of Deltek Vision at the time. And so we sold our president, Tom Gambino, on the purchase of Deltek Vision. I then implemented the CRM proposals, the SF330 modules at that firm. And the upfront work, we spent organizing all that information, made that process so much easier. But how I got into Full Sail is I asked my CRM consultant, I said, I really like doing this. I said, is Deltek hiring? And he said, no. Of course, he probably didn't want to have anybody compete against his job, but he suggested that I go to other partners. So there are several partners within the industry. And so I picked up the phone and I started calling them all. And many of the players that are still here today, I called them all, but I happened to reach one particular company. I called back, this was back in 2008. They had a splash web page, so one page, and they had their phone number on it at the time. So I picked up the phone and called and said, I'm calling to ask if you're looking for a CRM consultant or someone to do marketing. And the person on the other end happened to be the president of the company, and he asked if I was a recruiter, if I was inquiring for myself, and I told him myself. And he said, well, I've had an ad out for about 6 months and have yet to have one submission. And from that, I ended up getting a job where I was a CRM consultant as well as did marketing. So I had a 30% utilization rate, which was a whole new experience of understanding project managers. And really from this, it told me several things. One, it's about connections, knowing someone that knows someone. Never discount individuals that you talk to understand the connection that they might bring later on. As well as two, don't wait for those opportunities to come to you. If you want something, seek them out even before they have an opening. That's one of the key things that we tend to do is sometimes we will have people that will talk to us and we'll keep those individuals in mind, even if we don't have an opening. So I would say that always seek out those positions and get to know companies that you really admire or people that you like to do work with, that you like to work with. And then 3, I would say that no matter what your position is, even if you're an administrative person, always seek out more responsibility and diversity. Throughout my career, I was sort of thrown into having to do things because a whole staff was gone. So I was managing a 4-man department by myself. So don't be afraid of those types of opportunities. Seek them out and try to gain as much experience as you can.
Yeah, great advice. Great advice. Many of those I've followed throughout my career. So that's sound advice. It got me far. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about onboarding virtually, right? When you can't go into an office and somebody new is starting. So before we get started to that, I just want to throw out a fun fact and tell our viewers, maybe your best guess on how many employees, including marketers, have you onboarded virtually in your career?
I would have to guess probably about 15 to 20 employees. We really started this process. I went back to see how long ago I started this process, and I started the official process, more formalized process back in 2016. Okay. So, but we've been doing, of course, hiring of people, but I made it more formal back in 2016 with all new employees, not just in my employees. We're a small company. We're about 35 employees. We've doubled in size over the last 3 years. So we don't really hire a lot of individuals, but we have had an increase of growing our company. So the biggest thing that I focused on was making sure that we weren't reinventing the wheel each time and that we weren't forgetting key steps along the way.
Yeah, that's key. So typically, and probably most firms, HR typically handles onboarding. So how did you get involved in the onboarding process as the head of marketing and sales?
Well, it actually started back when we were a joint company with another firm before we split out. I actually oversaw business development for the consulting group, as well as handling CRM consulting as well. But the purpose was really about helping consultants gain more business. What I found was that the marketing group needed experts on topics to help them with blogs and presentation creation. And who better to talk about your services than your experts? And I think that this is true for the AE industry as well, is that our consultants really are the experts. And so I sort of interjected myself. I wasn't really asked, but I interjected myself into the interview process. So every time they were interviewing someone, I insisted that we also interview them about business development. And so my philosophy was that you needed lead gen people and individuals that can focus just on BD, but you also need experts that you can call upon into a conversation and consultants that can continue to sell their services and other services when they notice an opportunity with an existing client. So during the interview process, I started asking how comfortable they were with writing blogs and presenting and calling into clients. And like I said, we're a small firm, and this skill set is needed to be successful in our line of work. I think that it's also very true for AE industry as well, that you really have to think about the BD aspect. Most people don't go into project management or don't go into things thinking they're going to have to do marketing and BD, but it really is a skill set that's important. So I would say that that's how I entered it, is really interviewing people about marketing and BD and what they knew, what they were comfortable with.
So you interjected yourself in the interview process.
Yes.
Yes. That's great. I did that too at my last firm. Key hires like project managers or subject matter experts. So
absolutely.
I think that's a really great advice for, especially like you said, AE firms, but particularly smaller AE firms that might only hire one project manager a year.
Yeah. And I would say don't ask for permission, just do it.
Yeah. So how do you think onboarding virtually is different from onboarding in person or in an office setting?
I would say that goes back even further, that it focuses on, if you look at the hiring process, I think it actually goes back to that part, that for one, searching for talent is different. It doesn't matter where the person's located. It's more about the skill set and the fit of the person. What do you have? We do have a criteria that you should be relatively close to an airport, but it's really about that fit for a position. So I think that it goes back to that, as well as the interview process. The next place would really be that, asking different types of questions about working from home. So we ask questions like, when you hear the term working remotely, what does that mean to you? Or why would you want to work from home? Really focusing also on autonomy. Can they do things on their own? What does their typical schedule look like each day, versus asking questions like, are you comfortable working from home?
Yeah.
So, because everybody's going to say, sure. But if you ask questions like why you want to work from home, these questions really shed light on motivations and also the ability to motivate themselves. Those are the questions I think are most important in the interview process. Now, right now, you sort of have individuals and you need to help equip them, but in the interview process, those are some of the questions I would recommend. And then I would also say during the interview, we also ask questions about being able to handle IT items on their own. Employees are buying their own computer, they're then expensing them, they're having to set them up on their own. The first day is really making sure technology is working, but a lot of that can be done prior to starting. I know when I hired you, you had it all set up and you were ready to go that first day. So
yeah, that makes a big difference to have everything ready to go the first day.
I would add maybe a couple of other things other than the interview and hiring process, the in-person interaction. I would say that not just the onboarding, but the day-to-day is really different. You aren't going to lunch with your colleagues. You aren't doing that birthday cake celebration, but you could potentially do some of those things. So you could do a birthday celebration. I remember several years ago, whenever I was pregnant, they actually did a virtual, everybody was on video. They sent all of the gifts to me for a baby shower, and we did everything virtual. That was a really neat experience.
Yeah.
And a lot of those things, just are a little bit different. You can't really go to the water cooler, but you can still have conversations with individuals, but it's more over the phone, IM, texting, things like that.
Yep. Okay. And so what do you do at Full Sail Partners to prepare for a new hire? Maybe walk me through the steps between when someone accepts a job offer and their first day. So how do you do that?
I think it goes back to some of the things I was mentioning. So the IT aspect of the computer, getting those things set up before you start. The paperwork process is probably completely different. So instead of going to the HR person, them giving you information, physical papers, you going back and doing stuff and coming back to them. We actually outsource our HR company, so you have a username login where you're doing everything virtual. All of your paperwork is done online. And then before they start, they're really focusing on purchasing their computer, their mouse, their keyboard, their headset, anything that they're going to need, making sure they have a quiet place is really important, that they have internet, decent internet, and then setting them up through email would be the first thing that would be really important, and then Office 365 is what we use, so it's real easy to just click on all the different buttons and get everything set up. So
just making sure they have the tools that they need to start on the first day.
Absolutely.
It sounds so basic, but I know that that doesn't always happen at most firms, so it's worth noting here. Do you do anything, maybe even in the interview or in preparing for the employees' goals or performance for like what you expect them to do the first day or the first week or the first month? How do you prepare? What's your thought process and what they're actually going to work on?
Yeah, so that first day and week, we, after all finishing up all the computer and the phone setup and getting them connected to all the different systems, whatever those might be depending on their particular role. We do also do an introduction email to introduce the employee and encourage people to connect to them. But going to the goals, I would say that's probably one of the key differences or things that we do. Some people are set up with a 3-month, 6-month, and 9-month goal. Others are a little bit more fast-paced. So a recent hire that I just did, we had a 30, 45-day and a 3-month and a 6-month. So everything we felt like we'll be able to get that person onboarded in 6 months. But I think that this is one of the biggest differences I have seen from virtual and non-virtual. You can't just walk down the hall to see how people are doing. You have to trust that they're going to do their job, and you have to outline expectations with them. And you're just checking in with them to see what type of help you can provide to accomplish those milestones. I think instead of putting it all on the employee, it's also making sure you're checking in with them of how can I help? So what else do I need to do to help you to accomplish those goals? And our goals are actually pretty detail oriented.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting in this last interview process that we did for marketers. We had it during the hiring process. We gave them their goals,
Okay.
and all of them were really surprised at the detailed outline of what it is that they were expecting, and they sort of made the comment of, wow, okay, now I understand how you can be virtual, because
Mm-hmm.
you're setting up all of these things that you're expecting of us, so we're on track together. So I'm not having to go down the hallway and check on you. It's about setting those expectations, really. And
Yeah, and that's what I really appreciated as, I know I've told you this before, but I'm going to officially get it on the record. When I joined Full Sail Partners, I mean, you had them all, we knew, we talked about them in the interview process, but one, I had a place I could log in and all my goals were written and it was a checklist. And so I knew we had some scheduled calls the first day and introductory calls and training calls. So
yeah.
all that, I could independently work and know that I was doing things that I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Because like as an employee, when you start at a firm, they take you around, in an office setting, they take you around, introduce you to everybody, and then the boss goes off to their office and works, and then you're sitting at your desk and you're like, okay,
what do I do
now? Yeah. So it was very helpful, especially because I didn't even waste all that time going around introducing everybody and going out to lunch and everything. So I think the goals is going to be a must-have, clearly defined, clearly communicated goals. Is be a good best practice during this virtual, time where we're all working from home. But I think it's going to carry over when we get back to the office and firms get back to the office as part of their onboarding.
Yeah.
So I think that was really helpful from the employee standpoint. And we're not talking huge goals. It was, if I can remember back, it's been 2.5 years ago now, but some of them were like, you had a list of webinars for me to watch.
Yep.
It was like, get yourself familiar with our products, watch these webinars, go and set up your demo database and familiar with that, schedule some time with these folks. So they weren't like huge goals for the first week or the 30 days, but it was more of a list of tasks and assignments that were doable when I was new to the firm. And then they progressively got, more challenging as I got more comfortable as an employee. So that was, that hopefully that gives you some ideas. We could probably brainstorm some other ideas for marketing professionals, handling proposals, maybe review some previously submitted proposals so you get familiar with your project portfolio and your key employees. Maybe it's sitting in on some proposal calls, coordination calls, so you start observing.
Maybe it's you have a list of all your projects. You have a list of specific projects. So you have aviation. So go check out these 10 project descriptions and get to understand the different types of projects that you're typically going to submit. I know for us, as we started to go through this process, we created different things. So videos, for example, like understanding the value of LinkedIn, videos that are out there related to our services. So for example, I just onboarded 2 other people, and they each had different things that they needed to view. One was our BI person, so it was viewing our information that we had recorded on Informer. For the marketing person, it was understanding different services that we provide.
Right.
But there's certain things that are always consistent, like our company branding information, LinkedIn, our HR resource guide was something that I ended up adding after I hired you, is making sure that we had a list of like, who do I go to for different things. So understanding those types of things are really important when you're virtual, because you can't just go next door and say, who do I go for, for this? So having a list of these are the people you should call and why you should call them.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And then, so now that we were talking about goals and stuff, but can you walk me through a typical first day for a new Full Sail Partners employee, what that looks like?
Yeah, the first day is really the things that I talked about as far as the setting up the computer, the phone setup, the systems, the introduction email, and really those goals. But as we get into the week, it's really sort of the week and not just that day. It really is focusing on those specific goals. And understanding more about the company, understanding the things that you need to do. But I would say the biggest difference is we put sort of the onus on the employee. And we have a particular process that we go through, but they know who they need to talk to for those different types of things. And so they know to go to them and talk to them about IT or marketing or whatever those different things are that they need to do. So it's really sort of a checklist of things that they need to do, but it's their responsibility to then coordinate those different meetings.
Okay.
So
Great. And we kind of covered a lot of what I'm going to ask you next, but maybe if you had to sum it up in a couple of items, what do you think are the most important factors to successfully onboard a new employee, whether virtually or in person? So again, we covered a lot of these, but maybe your top 2 or 3 important factors that goes into your onboarding.
Okay. I would say the goals definitely are the key thing. It's amazing how many comments that we get about the goals when we do things. They really feel more at ease of understanding what they should focus on.
Yeah.
I think having a checklist of items that I talked about are important. And just to talk a little bit real quickly about that process. So we actually utilize a tool called Collaboration, which was known as Kona. And so we each onboarding actually includes HR, IT, and marketing. And a part of that process, since we're sort of a small firm, we really don't have a full talent solution because we don't hire that many people. So I have what I called sort of a poor man's onboarding process. But I was really looking for something that we didn't have to reinvent the wheel. And the tool really takes me about 10 minutes to set up a new hire. So it has all of the tasks. It says, day 1, week 1, and all the different tasks that that person needs to do. A part of that. And one of the values of it is that it also has security in it. So I can set up a particular role. I can say HR, supervisor, employee. So I have these different security roles a part of it. And so when I add the individual, I just drag it down to that particular security role, and all the tasks that are assigned to them end up just automatically showing up for them. So I've created the template once, and then I'm able to have all of those tasks associated to the different individuals. So if I have a different supervisor, for example, I just simply add them, drag them down there, and they see all the things related to them. If I have a different IT person, because the IT person's out and I'm needing to do it to another person, then I can have that. But I think having a process so you aren't reinventing the wheel and forgetting important steps. And then I would just say some of the other things that are really important that we haven't really talked about are shadowing people. So I actually will include people or have the supervisor include them if shadowing different things that might be important to them, and then taking the process a step further, having us shadow that person. So making them more the lead on whatever it is that they're doing, but you're there as sort of a safety net in helping them through that process.
Yeah, I remember that. That. I had to, I shadowed Kevin on some CRM consulting calls, training sessions. We let the client know, obviously.
Yeah.
And then we slowly transitioned me to the lead. And so it was very helpful because I wasn't just thrown into the fire, so to speak, and luckily that particular client, they're based in Orlando, and I knew the marketing manager, just personally, so it helped that way too. But the shadowing is something that is often overlooked, and I don't think it's enough. I know I'm guilty of it at my previous architecture firm, by the time you get to hire somebody and find them and they start, you are swamped with proposal deadlines. So it's very, you'd rather than just go start working on proposals. But if you take a couple weeks or a couple months and just have them shadow another marketing coordinator, it'll really help in the long run, and then slowly transition them to take the lead.
Yeah, and I think sometimes virtual ends up being easier to be able to do that because one, through IM, you can see whether someone's available, if it's like a quick, short minute type thing, but we're so dependent on our calendars that as we're setting up things, it's thinking about that person and would it add value to them joining the call just to learn more about either the company or your service or things like that. So including them in on those things that they can continue to learn more about the company ends up being really helpful.
Good. So we talked about, setting goals. I think hopefully if anybody's listened to this video, hopefully they got the goals because we talked that. To having a checklist for the first day, first week, first month. And I know from my experience that was very helpful. A process for the manager so they don't have to reinvent the onboarding process every time, or the onboarding effort.
And it would add preferably automated. So
automated, yes, automated process.
Yeah.
There are plenty of tools and software, and if you guys need help, contact Sarah or myself because we have tools that we can help you to automate that process. And then shadowing. Yeah. Shadowing others in the organization in that role, and then slowly then taking the lead, still being shadowed by, a support system. So not throwing anybody out to the wolves, so to speak. So, well, good. Well, this has been fun, Sarah. Do you have last parting words before we end today's video?
I would simply say that if anybody is struggling with this, we've offered out to all of our clients that if you're trying to figure out how to work in this virtual world, call us. Let us help you brainstorm on different things that we've learned from a technology perspective over the years or best practices that we have. So I welcome anybody if they have any questions to reach out. So
and how can they reach you, Sarah?
So if you need to reach me, you can simply send an email to info@fullsalepartners.com. I'm one of the people that's on that, as well as some other individuals. And so I would say that's probably the best way to get us.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you again, Sarah.
Absolutely.
And we'll close out now.
Thank you so much for having me.